I'm Aryeh Schwartz alongside Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it's all about the W. The preseason is here, and we have moved on up from spotty iPhone, Twitter live streams to real production WNBA games. Let's discuss the W. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. That's patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. And you can catch Rachel and I weekly, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bleacher Report app, where we discuss all the hot WNBA topics. All right, welcome back to the show. Excited to be here with you, Rachel. We laugh about it, but literally last year, we were sitting on Twitter watching a live stream of Minnesota versus Chicago on somebody's iPhone. And now we have real production value games. I know that, I made a little comment to you at one point, like, yay, also the value of these games is not going to be great. Not going to be the greatest basketball we've ever seen. We've seen some highlights. We've seen some star college players get opportunities to show their talents to the W fan base. Where's your head at now? Just, we're in the midst of preseason. Some of the games we've seen, some of the games we haven't. Where's your head at?
I find myself being frustrated that I'm not like an expert analyst on this stuff right now, and then I have to step back and like give myself some grace because we've seen 4 preseason games and they've been in camp for 1 week. Literally, like in years past, we had no idea. We'd be doing these shows looking at box scores and maybe some reporting on social media, and so it's a new era, and I'm having to check myself a little bit and give myself a little bit of grace of like, okay, just like chill out. Let's be appreciative of the fact that we get an opportunity to watch these games. I felt like the early ones are okay. It's hard to get a feel this early on for anyone. There's some teams we haven't even had an opportunity to see yet. As from the moment we're recording this, we're going to have our first look, at Minnesota, Golden State, at LA with Phoenix. And so we haven't even seen those teams. I do think it was amazing. Obviously, in my opinion, the biggest story of the preseason game so far was to have the Fever on ESPN against the Brazilian national team back in Iowa, and looking at those numbers that came out today on ESPN, 1.3 million average viewers on ESPN. It peaked at 1.6. That's up 13% from last year, regular season average. And they're just playing the Brazilian national team, a very young Brazilian national team.
And it's preseason.
It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? That alone is groundbreaking. And obviously, I've talked about it at length. I am a massive proponent for the global crossover, for the collegiate crossover. It may not always make for the greatest product, but a lot of these exhibition preseason games aren't going to be the greatest product anyway. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. I thought it was really cool to get that opportunity for some of those young players and for Brazil to come up and have that experience and play on ESPN. You literally just got to play on ESPN.
To do that?
How
wild.
Cool is it, to have Angel Reese, Haley Van Lith back in LSU, to be able to have Caitlin Clark back in Iowa. When she pulled up on her logo, I thought that was the coolest thing, being able to knock down that shot. And the fans are so hungry for all of that. They just want to get a glimpse of that. They just want to be around that. Doesn't matter if it's a preseason game, a regular season game. It's the hunger and the desire for it is there, and that's what we're seeing. But yeah, for me as an analyst, you're just kind of like, I'm chomping at the bit to just understand more, and that's just going to take time. We now have 13 teams, and it's going to take time to understand what we're working with, how the rosters are going to shape up. We're starting to see a really good amount of roster cuts. You start to see every year the fan bases are upset about it and they don't understand it and people are pissed off. Well, this is a part of the WNBA. It's all about getting second, third chance opportunities. And the good news is, everybody, a lot of these players will get picked up again. Some of these players might be signed back again just because they have even a half of a week of experience. with a team. A half of a week and experience in camp is like the equivalent of being on a team, for a month because their preseason is so short. And then the good news is if one of your favorite players got cut and they're not able to get picked up on a roster, we've got 2 new teams getting ready to be added who are going to have to fill those spots out, less than a year from now. So it's a great time. I know there's a lot of movement. That's just what this time of year is about right now. Everybody's trying to cut down their roster from, 17, 18 to 11 to 12. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot to talk about from that standpoint. But yeah, I'm just excited. I'm excited for this week to get an opportunity to watch not just the teams we talked about tonight, but like the Atlanta Dream. What does Brittany Griner look like in a Carl Semesco system? What does a Carl Semesco WNBA system look like? So I don't know. I'm rambling, but I'm grateful. I'm thankful. And I'm just really excited to just get my eyes on some of these franchises.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, I don't follow NASCAR, but it feels like we're in like a warm-up lap, but you and I are like, come on, let us run. Right. But you touched on something that we definitely didn't prepare for. So I apologize, but it's also kind of one of my favorite things to put you on the spot.
Oh, gosh.
So often you and I ramble about this, how there's a lack of understanding in WNBA, in the women's basketball world, the ability to translate a college hooper into what that will be in the pros. And as the league is expanding, and I always toot your horn and say how I think you're great at doing that and understanding it and blah, blah, blah. But there's another element to it, right? Because as the league expands, and we can talk about this for a very long time, if they should expand rosters before teams, is the league in a place where we can expand the teams? Is women's basketball in a place where we can expand the amount of teams by 3, 4, 5 and still keep the level of quality of product where it is? We could go on for that for a while. My question for you is not even necessarily a question, but posing a general topic idea. And I want to kind of hear where your brain goes. So often we talk about the college to pros aspect of it. And you and I have been talking about for years now, the overseas coming to the W, the influx of the international game, not just into college, but also into pros. And when we see this expansion in the W, we're going to see more roster spots. And yes, a handful of those are going to go to college players who wouldn't be in the league if not for more spots. But a handful of those are also what we've seen from Connecticut, what we've seen from Golden State so far, is looking overseas to get talent. And I'm curious for you, when I talk about that, when I bring that up, what does your mind go to? Because I have so many questions. Do we think that a pro hooper of 4 years in overseas is, at the same age as a college player, is more prepared? Or is a college player more prepared because they've been in a system? Or is it purely about that individual? Like, I have so many questions, but I'm just curious for you in terms of that. And then also, like, do we think, this is like another question that's in my mind, so you're probably not even going to answer any of this, but no, like, do we think that WNBA coaches and, scouts and all of that are paying enough attention to the overseas game? Or is is a team more focused, like Connecticut, we're only paying attention to overseas, obviously a little bit of college, but mostly overseas, or vice versa? I think
it depends on the franchise, truthfully. I mean, some of them are deeply invested and have massive amounts of, not massive, that's pretty intense, but they have a great team of analytics and scouts that help them be very prepared internationally. And then you have ones that it's not a priority. Like, I don't think it's a priority for the Aces whatsoever. I don't think they even have anyone there that like spends time looking at it. What I can tell you, though, is that's the direction the league is going. And so it's one of those investment pieces where, okay, we're going to talk about practice facilities. We're going to talk about different roles or front office people or beefing up whatever. But what point do we start investing in scouts? Something, and again, some teams do it, some teams don't. So I personally think that that's going to be, another area that we see of growth in the WNBA for the next couple of years, is just not just having your president and an assistant going out and doing the scouting. You're really having a team, an analytical team, like almost like the Liberty. That's what the Liberty have. They have a full organized team of analytics and scouts, global people. I mean, like, they really maximize their opportunities there. I think back to kind of your point, you brought up a lot of things. So
Side note, Rachel, there was an article that came out from Anacostable recently about the non-salary cap ways that teams can try and grease the wheels a little bit. And they talked about, we get apartments, we get cars for the teams, we do these other things, food, blah, 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 practice facilities. Low key, also a huge aspect is scouting. When you're investing in that aspect of it, yeah, it's not going to make the players happier necessarily, but winning makes players happier.
Well, and they also have what they would consider advanced scouts. And in a lot of these places, at least a few years ago, they would ask, like, college coaches who were in a certain market to go out and take a look at, an opponent and see if you could look at some play calls. I mean, and like no one got paid for that. You just was cool.
Rachel,
cool. It was cool to be asked.
Stop being humble about this, Rachel. There was a period of time where you were asked to do that.
I think I was, but I think, it was probably really hard at that time. Actually, I forget. I don't know. This is
long.
You
100% were, because I remember getting contacted by some people like, when you started working with Winsidr, they were like, is she a scout or is she media? I'm like, no, she's media.
I quickly made the transition to media not long after that because my coaching days and my media days like just flipped real fast there. I think that, you've got front offices right now who make it a focus on the international game. I think not even just international, just scouting in general. And then you have some that are a little bit more behind. Back to your thoughts about the expansion. Here's what I think is going to happen is we have come to know a certain group of women in the WNBA. Like this era right now is like a lot of us who came on 6, 7, 8 years ago and have been riding kind of this train, and we're the Elena Delle Dons, the Candace Parkers, the Diana Taurasi's. Well, like a lot of those women are starting to step away from the game. They're starting to retire a little bit. Some of these names that we've watched for years are stepping away. These teams still remain. You add 3 new expansion teams. So we are now going to start seeing like less experienced WNBA veterans filling out these rosters. And with that is going to be a period of transition. Like I really do believe that the quality of some of these matchups, of some of these games, is going to be unbearable to watch sometimes. I really do. It's going to be rough. It's going to be tough. You're going to have young players finding their way, having to just be thrown into the fire this year. Connecticut, Phoenix, Golden State, just going in and playing. And it's not going to look that pretty all the time, but it's also going to be filled out with what I would call the European pro vets, those who have been making a living overseas for 5-10 years now, playing at the top levels. They all know each other. There's a whole pro women's basketball culture over there. American players and international players. They're now going to finally get opportunities because they're at least pro veteran players who've been around the game. So it's interesting because we're going to have these expansion rosters. You're also going to have existing rosters like a Connecticut this year, for example, that is just going to be it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough, but I've said it from the start. I'm a huge proponent of it because it's going to be a part of the growth. It's not, you can't expect these new teams, these new players, there has to be new players that fill out all these spots, and they're coming from somewhere. It's either going to be rookies, it's either going to be overseas vets. And you talk about the international players. Now, that's an interesting one to analyze because I think a lot of those, I call them kids because a lot of these kids I work with, so I know them. It's really interesting to like blend my worlds together. But they're excited about being drafted at 19 years old. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But they don't feel anywhere near prepared. I'm working with a young lady right now who is a top WNBA prospect. And she's like, I am questioning what is the right path. Is it going to college and adapting to the physicality of the American play through college and use a college weight room? We don't have those types of resources. Have an opportunity to play, in an American style of system and adapt and let your body grow and develop. Some of these 19 years old. Dominique Malonga, 19 years old. I mean, her body is still very much coming into itself. And so I think the young ones are interesting. And the ones who come over, and do this from a young age are a rarity. I really do believe that. I think Ezzy was one. Didn't Ezzy come over when she was 19?
Something like that. I mean, she was young. Yeah, definitely.
Young.
We've had a few. We had Sika.
Yeah. It does happen. Yeah. And I think it will continue to, because the league is becoming more desirable now on a global scale, especially when this new CBA comes out and they're able to make a little more money.
And that's what I was saying is, like, for so long, we always talk about LA kind of calling it in and just saying, like, we're LA, people want to play here, they're going to want to come over here. The W kind of had that element for overseas players. You weren't getting a huge paycheck. It was, hey, do you want to come to America for the summer and be paid to be in America and get to go to New York, get to go to LA, get to go to all these different places that you only read about maybe, or you'd have to pay thousands of dollars to go visit and do these experiences. But hey, you can come here and get paid. Now, moving forward, the possibility of, hey, you can actually make a good chunk of money that maybe is somewhat comparable to what you're making overseas for 3 years. And by the way, overseas for them is back home. It's definitely going to open more doors and be very interesting. I mean, there's overseas players, Rachel, that you and I have talked about for years who never came to play because there wasn't enough of a pull.
Right. I mean, look at like Raquel Carrera. I can't remember who still has her rights right now. Is it New York? Might be New York who has her rights, but yeah, she's never come over. A lot of it has to do with the national team and what kind of
Iguapova, the legend of overseas who never came over.
I mean, what kind of what kind of national team? What kind of cycle is it that year? Is it an Olympic year? Is it for some of them a World Cup year? Like there's so many elements of it, and I think especially when it comes to the 19-year-olds, they start to have, because they're still doing like U20 national team stuff, and that stuff's highly important for kids at those age. So they might say, "Oh, I'm not ready to come. I'm only 19 years old. I'm going to focus on my national team this summer, and I have a pro deal, but like I'm not ready. Like I want to feel ready when I go over to the WNBA." So I don't know how we got on that tangent, but always something I'm happy to talk about.
Love it. No, I appreciate it. And that's a perfect way to end this episode. I appreciate you always. Hopefully we'll find some time before the season begins, Rachel, to kind of go down through each team, put you on the spot. Now you've committed to it, so we have to. No, I'm joking.
I'm in.
It's not going to be crazy in depth, but I do want to touch on all these different teams. Just kind of pick your brain, because I think this season, as I always say, is the newest, biggest season in the history of the WNBA, and I'm very excited for it. And then I got to think of how we're going to end each episode this season, because last year we had who's your.
Anymore.
I know. I won't ask you who's your GOAT, but we'll think of some other fun way to end each episode. We also very excited. I want to tell our listeners, if you don't already know, Winsidr has launched our second mainstay podcast, the Sideline Sisters. Definitely go check it out. Jazz and Ace are headlining that one, a place for the people of Winsidr, the women of Winsidr, to go and speak about the W, unabashed, unedited, and definitely check it out. It's worth the listen. Trust me. Also, make sure you're checking out winsidr.com. Check us out on TikTok and all the social medias. We got some amazing content coming this season. Have a good one.